I would like to welcome Dr. Khalif Tarauna, President of Jordanian University, to address the audience. Dr. Khalif.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خاتم الأنبياء والمرسلين النبي العربي الأمين محمد بن عبد الله وصحبه ومن والاه إلى يوم الدين وبعد. His Excellency Sheikh Saud ibn Abdul Rahman Al Thani, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors to Qatar, distinguished guest speakers, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Allow me first to express my deep gratitude and sincere appreciation for Qatar Anti-Doping Lab and Qatar Olympic Committee for the invitation and the opportunity I was given to address this respected audience. This symposium has selected to cover a very important issue that concerns the community at large and the youth in particular. Among the topics to be covered in this opening ceremony, I was asked to talk about integrity in sport, a real challenge of today's sport as it is to me. Sport plays important social, economic, and entertainment roles in the society. Moreover, the role of sport is expanding through sport-related employment, tournament, revenues, television rights, sponsorship, merchandise, and the like. Sport has particularly become an important economic sector in the society. Though sport as a sector is difficult to define and internationally comparable data on sport is limited, the large and rising importance is clear as hundreds of millions of people take part in sports. Worldwide, millions are employed in this sector, and overall economic value that sports contribute to national GDP. Furthermore, sport contributes to keeping us healthy and is often said to have an important educational function, teaching us about team spirit and honesty, as well as building bridges between different races and cultures. Webster Dictionary defines integrity as firm adherence to a code of especially moral or artistic values, incorruptibility. But I like a simple, straightforward definition of integrity, that is knowing and doing what is right. Integrity is as critical to sports as it is to other aspects of life, and it represents the ethical foundation of sports. A sport that displays integrity can often be recognized as honest and genuine in its dealing, championing good sportsmen and providing safe, fair, and inclusive environments for all involved. It will be also expected to play by the rules that are defined by its code. Additionally, a sport that generally displays integrity has a level of community confidence, trust, and support. Breaches of integrity not only damage these values, but will shape a sport's popularity and ultimately its business and sponsorship viability, and even its survival. Although many sports have taken active steps towards safeguarding competitions, the threats of integrity are still internationally significant, growing, and constantly changing. Lately, it has been argued that the integrity of sport is under increased threat and that this might lead people to lose interest in sport. Given that sport plays such a large role in the life of many people, such as development would have a significant impact on our lives and societies. Still, the issue has received little interest from academics. Because of this, and because of the great interest in sport, the debate is often dominated by opinions based on isolated events, feelings, or political passion rather than data and facts. Integrity in sport is governed by and interrelated with sports ethics and sport culture. Sport ethics helps us see and differentiate right from wrong. Sport culture, or the way things are done in a particular place, is the brand that presents itself to the public. A sport with a positive culture will demonstrate energy, commitment, and effort in developing systems to ensure their sport is one that all members are proud to participate in and support. The key to a positive sport culture is consistency of action. According to an Oxford research document that was published in 2010, there are 10 major threats to sports integrity that are highly different, but they have a common that they are in opposition to the fundamental values of sport. They are more complex than often portrayed by public and media discussion, and they include, in an alphabetical order, betting-motivated match fixing, cheating, doping, espionage, illegal performance-enhancing technology, management-related financial irregularities, money laundering, sporting-motivated match fixing, sporting-related financial irregularities, and transfer of young players across borders. A major challenge is the lack of reliable information and data on these threats to the integrity of sports. Activities and behaviors that define sport as lacking integrity include creating an unfair advantage or the manipulation of results through performance-enhancing drugs, match fixing, or tanking, antisocial behavior demonstrated by parents, spectators, coaches, and players are also a significant integrity issue for sport. The integrity of a sport will be judged by its participants, spectators, sponsors, the general public, and more often than not, the media. The survival of a sport, therefore, relies on ensuring that the sport is the same on the outside as it is on the inside, and remains true to its value, principles, and rules. Match fixing and sport betting are major threats to sport integrity. Match fixing is not new, but it is an increasing problem for sport globally. The combination of widespread availability of interest betting and the interest of organized criminals has been fuel on the fire of match fixing. The problem is now so big that everyone in sport is affected. Match fixing shakes the very foundation of sport, namely fair play, respect, and discipline. That is why FIFA employs a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to any infringement of these values. Sport betting is now a complex global business with millions of dollars bet via a network of operators, often unregulated. Different betting formulas and in-play betting have brought serious consequences for sport. While official statistical data is lacking, recent investigations indicate that match manipulation is probably more widespread than presumed. No sport organization is immune to a match-fixing scandal. A full-blown crisis can destroy reputation and careers, but with some advanced planning, the worst consequences can be avoided. An effective strategy for combating threat to sport must build on a thorough understanding of the nature and the scale of the threats. Further policy making ought to be built on facts and not only on isolated evidence, feelings, and political passions. An efficient strategy to combat threats to the integrity of sport seems to combine three elements: clear procedures, surveillance, and testing, as well as education. The focus on combating threats to sport, especially in the area of doping, has often been on surveillance, tests, and punishment. Detection and punishment are very important measures, but too little attention in comparison seems to have been paid to prevention in the form of education of athletes and officials. Despite the development of advanced testing system, doping in sport has not disappeared, and experience indicates that technological solutions alone cannot curb what are often essentially behavioral problems. The threats must be regarded as part of wider societal problems and cannot be understood by focusing on sport alone. This is evidenced by the following description of the fight against doping. The focus was always on the athlete. When an athlete tested positive, he or she received the assigned penalty, and that was the end of the matter. No effort was made to ascertain if others were involved. The doping network around the athletes and the wider context were ignored. Understanding the context is also important for understanding the cause of the threats. Sports pharmaceutical companies, licensed bookmarks, etc., are legal, but they can be targeted by criminals as a stage for their criminal activities. In a crime-free society, there would not be crimes in sport either, but crime from society will spill over into sport. Parallels can be drawn to spectator violence in sport, where troublemakers have used sport as a stage for fighting. However, the problem has its origin in society and is not caused by the sports clubs. It is also clear from the literature and the description and analysis of threats to the integrity of sport that good practice in combating threats must involve all relevant parties working together. The challenges can only be tackled efficiently if all stakeholders in the chain uphold their responsibilities, share information, and coordinate their efforts. A key principle is that future policy making can be substantially improved by understanding the cause of the threats in relation to wider society and not just sports. By collecting better data and more information on the threats, and by guiding future common efforts and initiatives on a combination of clear guidelines, surveillance, and testing and education. In conclusion, integrity is the most fundamental value to sports. Corruption erodes the very spirit of sport, and without integrity, competition is meaningless. Sports integrity can be protected through three pillars, namely training and education, investigation and intelligence, and enforcing consequences in sports. Finally, I must admit that the organization of this symposium by Qatar Anti-Doping Lab and Qatar Olympic Committee is a very important undertaking because it sheds light on a very critical matter in sports. Their contribution to safeguard sport integrity and promote athletes' health by providing anti-doping services should be highly appreciated. Similarly, Jordan Anti-Doping Organization, under the guidance and support of His Royal Highness Prince Faisal Al Hussein, has managed to implement an anti-doping program in Jordan, which provided assistance to West Asia region, and we look forward to a fruitful collaboration with institutions in Qatar and the region involved in anti-doping activities. May God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khalif Tarawna, رئيس الجامعة الأردنية في عمان. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to welcome Mr. David Homan, Director General of the World Anti-Doping Agency. David, welcome.
Bonjour, kia ora, good morning, Your Excellency, distinguished ambassadors, distinguished guests, my brothers and sisters in the anti-doping community. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today. In my native language, Māori, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, which means, for those of you who don't understand Māori, welcome to my speech. Can I first express my gratitude to Qatar Olympic Committee and Qatar Anti-Doping Laboratory and the Qatar Anti-Doping Commission for their invitation and their hospitality, not only to me but to all of you here, for a wonderful occasion and a wonderful opportunity to discuss matters which are very important for sport. And can I congratulate the preceding speaker for a very clear and unequivocal statement of how important it is for us to protect the integrity of sport. If I can divert to my subject, which is more along the lines of doping, I commence by saying that doping is no longer an issue that is confined within elite sporting boundaries. Rather, it is a problem that permeates other areas of our society, and it has a much wider impact than it did several decades ago. WADA provides the pointy end of the issue, with our focus on elite athletes. But when we draw the curtain, what is revealed is a very big social problem of steroids in schools, among our security forces, the presence of the criminal underworld and trafficking, an unregulated supply of non-sanitised drugs through the internet and from profit-making opportunists, including many in local gyms, amateur athletes doping in recreational sports events, young people taking steroids in a bid to look good, and an overall challenge to the values of sport and integrity through allied activities such as spot or match fixing, bribery and corruption. None of these matters falls under WADA's express mandate, but because the evidence of these have come to our attention, it is wise for us to share the experiences we have encountered. In the public health area, there's internationally often very little regulation over kitchen laboratories, minimum security and control of imported raw materials, and therefore not much attention paid to the growing steroid use. It's almost as if there is an acceptance of the burgeoning use along with the increase of drugs that provide the fountain of youth and are prescribed regularly by wellness clinics. And in that regard, I mentioned peptides, growth hormones, testosterone. Who's noticing that? And who's regulating it? WADA is hopeful that this gathering will allow the public health message to resonate more loudly and to help inform a broader section of society as to the issues of doping, both in terms of our physical health and in terms of our moral well-being. This symposium also creates an opportunity for WADA to share some information on the fight against doping in sport and the activities we are undertaking to combat the scourge. WADA has developed since 1999 into a well-recognised international agency, first for harmonising the rules and regulations that varied from sport to sport into one all-encompassing global code, and second for uniting sport with governments in a unique partnership. Thirdly, we are an independent hybrid body that has a very high collection of annual dues from governments, much higher than United Nations bodies. This of itself indicates a very strong support for WADA and our activities from the governments of the world. The sport movement's commitment has never been doubted. It matches the contributions from governments dollar for dollar. We've had now 2 examples of the code being reviewed, and we had a very successful conference in Johannesburg in November which approved a revised code coming into effect on the 1st of January 2015. We have 660 signatories to that code, and 176 countries have ratified the UNESCO Convention. We have a regional anti-doping program, better known as the RADO program, which now encompasses 123 countries that prior to the agency being formed were probably not even familiar with the words anti-doping. And can I pause here to congratulate Qatar and the Gulf region for the RADO that exists in this part of the world. It's probably the most successful RADO that we have in place, and its success is due to those who have been committed since the outset in making it work. And I take this opportunity to congratulate you all, many of whom of you are here today. WADA has invested more than $60 million so far in scientific research. We have relationships now with Interpol, World Customs Organization, the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Associations, the Biotechnology Industry Organisation. We've written models of best practice, we provided education models for school, and of course we get involved in the legal cases which go to the Court of Arbitration for sport. We all know, however, by now, that the fight against doping in sport has reached the stage where science alone will not eradicate cheating, or sometimes, very often, not detect it. This is not a secret. It's a worrying trend that WADA has communicated many times in the last few years. The reality is that the science of those who choose to dope, many of whom are assisted by an entourage with increasing scientific and medical expertise designed solely to cheat and avoid detection, is still able, in some areas, to keep ahead of the science of the good guys, or at least the practical application of the science when analysing collected samples, which, of course, the laboratories did not collect, nor did they select for such collection. One only has to reflect on some of the doping practices revealed by Tyler Hamilton in his recent book. He's a road cyclist caught twice for doping and finally admitting to doping during the Armstrong inquiry. Sample collection and analysis is getting more expensive. The rules are getting more complicated, or at least they appear to be. Laboratory directors and scientists in general continue to be conservative, no doubt encouraged by the legal profession, making demands of them to be 100% certain of their findings. This is quite properly seen as unrealistic by scientists who never think in terms of absolute certainty. At least that's what my scientific director tells me, the way in which scientists think. It may be suggested that some do not enjoy the adversarial process of lawyers. And I think that is an area where we must make sure there is more confidence in those who are asked to give evidence before tribunals, because it's most unfair to expect scientists to come to tribunals without being briefed properly and without understanding the process and the way in which it's going to go further. The clever cheating athlete, on the other hand, is becoming better at cheating, more sophisticated, funded more extensively, and that athlete might now confidently be of the view that he or she will avoid detection under the historical approach. Let's not forget the extent to which people will take risks to achieve financial gain and personal glory. Hamilton wrote that he and his teammates felt they had a 99% chance of avoiding detection, so long as they followed the simple rules laid down by their unscrupulous support medical and scientific staff. A direct quote from his book sheds light on this, and I quote, "The test for EPO is a good example of how big an advantage Michel Ferrari was to us. It took the drug testing authorities several years and millions of dollars to develop a test to detect EPO in urine and blood. It took Ferrari about 5 minutes to evade it. His solution was dazzlingly simple." Now, even if what Hamilton describes is no longer the case, and detection methods have improved, and they have, the dopers have figured out new ways of avoiding detection, whether it be microdosing, cocktails, designer drugs, superhydrating, transfusions, and so on. What we have learned, therefore, is that we must collect evidence in other ways than simply relying on urine and blood. We've moved into what we described as non-analytical cases. Several give us good examples. Lance Armstrong is one. Marion Jones is another. Both were tested tens of times during their careers, hundreds of times during their careers, and was never found to have had an adverse analytical finding. Both conceded that they had cheated right throughout their careers and won titles, gold medals, and so on. Armstrong went for many years bullying and threatening anyone who dared to challenge him. And in fact, if he had not returned to competition in 2009, following his retirement in 2005, he might have got away with it all. We think now investigation should form an integral part of any effective and efficient anti-doping program. It does not mean that anti-doping people must become policemen. There are many bodies in place already, police, customs, and so on, where there is, on a regular basis, information and evidence gathered. What we need in the anti-doping community is an ability to share that and share it with those involved in sport. We have provided some protocols to be able to do that, and we are working on those protocols to improve them this year to make sure that data protection laws are upheld, privacy laws are followed, but the most important issue is the information is shared. Together with other processes that we have put into place, like the blood passport, the steroid module, we are now in a position where we think the anti-doping community is able to gather both biological and non-analytical evidence on doping activities. The bases are therefore being covered better than before. I want to just raise in a few minutes some of the other specific challenges that we face. Number one, the continuing and increasing engagement of the underworld in providing prohibited substances through trafficking and distribution. And I emphasise this. The incentive to engage in trafficking of prohibited substances remains high. For $10, you can make $100, perhaps even $1,000. And so those sorts of returns are enticing. It's a criminal matter, only if laws are in place and the police can act. These substances are from raw materials delivered through the internet, put together in kitchen laboratories, unregulated and non-sanitised. And as I said before, they don't go just to elite-end athletes. This is a matter of public health and should be of great concern to government authorities. Here we have an occasion to confront it. It was looked at by the Danish government when they were president of the European Union, and they published a very good study examining the problem from a greater societal perspective. But what has happened? Very little. The criminal underworld, on the other hand, continues to make vast returns on a little investment. Clearly, we do not have a mandate, nor do we have the jurisdiction or expertise to confront these issues, but we can share the information. There was a study undertaken by UNESCO which clearly shows that there are significant benefits to be gained when a country does have in place specific legislation and doesn't rely on existing other legislation to combat the problem. Law enforcement can help, but they need the laws to be able to do so. The second issue is the growing and encroaching black market for pharmaceutical products. We all know that on the black market, probably more now than 25% of the pharmaceutical products available in the world comes through this black market. A very good example of the availability of it was given by a German television program just before the Winter Olympic Games in Sochi, of the product MGF being available despite it not yet being on the market itself. That's why we have strengthened our relationship with the industry and the biotechnology industry in the last couple of years. The third point I want to raise is the increasing sophistication of cheating at the high end of sport. For a long time I've talked about the way in which the dopey doper is caught, but not the sophisticated doper. And this sophistication is increasing to our concern, from microdosing to manipulation and so on. The fourth issue is the continuing and vexed problem of cost. It costs a lot of money to run an anti-doping program. And what we have to do, and what our responsibility is to do, is to ensure that the money that you spend in anti-doping is both effective and efficient. And that's a matter that we are now looking at very intensely in the way in which we are running a technical group looking at which substances should be analysed in which sport, and even in which disciplines of which sport. Number 5, I wanted to mention the trickle-down effect of doping. And I've said this a couple of times in this presentation. It is not just elite athletes. It's becoming an issue for society in general. Why? Is it because there's a quantum shift in moral attitudes? Or is it just because the substances are so much more readily available? We suspect it's a combination of the two, but there is no doubt that current attitudes toward doping have changed. Values generally across our societies have changed, and there are studies to prove that cheating in its many forms is not only commonplace but also considered acceptable, just so long as you do not get caught. Cheating pervades all levels of our social spectrum. We've had major scandals of politicians fiddling their expense forms, tax evasion. In the world of academia, there are controversies of students admitting to plagiarism. And as the Dean of Harvard said, without integrity, there can be no genuine achievement. It happens in Scrabble tournaments. It happens in police forces, where recently we heard of a coroner's report of a police officer dying from substances he took to try to improve his results in an athletic test to keep his accreditation as a policeman. So we're operating in an age where the values of honesty and integrity are constantly under threat from a win-at-all-costs society. We can deliver our anti-doping messages, we can provide education, but we need others to help us. We need to make sure that our youth, our high school students, are not resorting to cheating to attain good performances and to seek professional contracts. We have a few things which we are introducing this year to help with that. I mentioned the passport. I mentioned the advances that we are making with our sharing of information. I mentioned education because, of course, deterrence is an extremely important component of any anti-doping program, and prevention is the cornerstone of any development of values among the youth of today. There are some who say all our education only goes to those who wish to be educated. The bad guys just ignore it, and we have to deal with that issue as well. Finally, can I mention the entourage? My friend mentioned it in his speech. Sport and governments must realise that in most cases it is not athletes acting alone who defeat everything for which they should stand. They are assisted, counselled, sometimes tricked, and occasionally forced into the downward spiral of cheating. Coaches, trainers, doctors, scientists, lawyers, sports administrators make a mockery of their responsibilities and trivialise the years of training and dedication of the trusting athletes whom they betray. We're doing something about that. And you will have read the recent case that USADA had of Johan Brunel and several doctors, members of the entourage of the Armstrong team, who have been sanctioned for very long periods of time. So it's our job to make sure that no longer is it just the athletes who are sanctioned. The entourage must be dealt with. In conclusion, can I leave you with a series of questions? Are we developing in anti-doping, or are we entrenched in ways that are historically cemented? What is our lateral thinking? Where are our energetic leaders? Do people want sport to be value-based, and does sport want to protect its values? I think you're going to address these issues over the next couple of days, and I look forward to the outcomes. Can I thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you, and once again repeat that we will lead the fight for clean sport to the best of our ability, but we need champions and we need alliances to spread the issue appropriately to society in the areas of health and ethics. We welcome your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David, for an informative talk and for addressing the audience. Now I would like to invite Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani, Director of Public Health in the Supreme Council of Health in Qatar. Dr. Mohammed, تفضل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. الشيخ سعود عبد الرحمن الثاني، دكتور محمد صيرفي، سعادة السفراء, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very good morning for everybody who is here with us today. I am glad to be with you here, and I thank so much Dr. Muhammad for inviting me for this. He came for me earlier 2 months ago and said, Dr. Muhammad, we need you with us. Doping is becoming a bigger problem in Qatar, and public health, they are working in different issues, and we believe we should work together in this. And Dr. Muhammad Saif is known for his history in dedicated work, and we should not miss the opportunity to work with him in something issue like this, especially with the big achievement they are doing in the last few years, and they are very well in achieving things faster than others. This is something sometimes not very common. But thank you very much for this. So I thought, what should I speak? I have many people here experienced about doping. So I speak about my public health, and let's see how much we can work together in the future to add value for the country through public health. This is... Sorry. Okay. Okay, so public health, why I like public health, it's the science and art of preventing diseases, prolonging life, and promoting health through the organized efforts and informed choice of society, organization, public health, community, and individuals. So always the challenge in public health is not only science, and it's not only art. If you don't mix both properly, you cannot achieve it. It seems like for sports, talent and will together. Excuse me, it's just, okay. It takes some time. So as you know, the dramatic improvement in health, whatever you are preferring your doctors who care about your cardiac problems or respiratory diseases, but the main thing was for public health, and the main thing that affected the world was vaccination. And after vaccination is antibiotics. And in the 19th century was sewage, doing proper sewage for people lower a lot of the challenges. So we always concern public health as the savior of the millions, and one of the main reasons that we can see now the world population is increasing and elongate life, and we are ambitious to keep this going on for the future, for all the wealth. What we are living now is better than the kings and the emperors in the last century. So our vision in Qatar to have healthy people and healthy community for better productivity and faster development. And we ask always people, international people, come to live in Qatar because it's inshallah safe and good place for your health to live in. So mission is prevent disease, injury, and disability, and promote physician and mental health, not only physical, and even every detail in your health. So this part of what we do, we prevent epidemics, like, you know, now, God forbid, Corona, and the chance to speak about Corona. We are having some rumors in Qatar now about Corona. People say, we have Corona in Qatar. I swear to God, we have Corona. I saw somebody with Corona. And then it ends by he have the seasonal Corona and not the MERS-CoV that people are worried of. And the rumors keep going on. And we should keep assuring people what we have exactly from time to time. We have the environmental hazards. You know, we have oil companies, and we assure that the environment is keen to protect it. We prevent injuries because we have big challenge for road traffic accidents. It's still high in Qatar, but because the reason it's high, if somebody told us, not because we are not reluctant, but we don't have another way of transfer. You know, we don't have buses, we don't have undergrounds. The probability of the cars staying in the ground, in the ways are very high because the drivers go back double time in the road. So the probability is there. We have people that drive from everywhere in the world, so they are mixed in the case. But we are working hard with Ministry of Interior and other colleagues for this to protect it. And of course, promote and encourage healthy behaviors. Now we are asking people to go less in nutrition to keep their weights fine. So let's say, no, we go an easy way. We go to a bariatric surgery, that's it. We will not go with behaviors. We just, they want the magic pill. But I hope that they have a lot of other behavior that they should work for to keep their health moving further. Respond to disasters is something growing now around the world, and all the world are confirming how they can respond for disasters, what happened in Haiti and what happened in Fukushima. So it's very important for us too. So this is the part of public health, and we have food safety and environmental health and non-communicable health promotion and preventive and communicable disease control. We believe that anti-doping can have part here in health promotion to work with anti-doping part. These are the parts that if people ask you what is public health, many people cannot answer. They are confused with public health. These are many things that are under public health, and we keep trying to work on them all at the same time and somehow because they are widely spread, sometimes the effort's not clear for everybody, but these are a must things in every country that the world speak and communicate through health, through this part. And here is one of our achievements in vaccination, that we have a very high vaccination coverage in Qatar due to good infrastructure, proper spread of primary health care. And we are hoping to use this like this in anti-doping too. As much as we can spread our vaccination to every point, we can spread our awareness through primary health care and notify the people who are having anti-doping from the family medicine doctor early stage to give them the right advice and convince them to stop in early stage. So notification of the disease will be very important. Other part of health promotion here that we did proper research about stepwise survey to understand the situation of obesity and overweight, physical inactivity, smoking, and other issues. And we have a project where we are healthy kids and maybe we are healthy teens for children that we go 8 weeks for the schools and give them advice every week, different advice, drink water, healthy food, eat with your family health food, know your sport. And this is growing from primary school to intermediate, and next year, inshallah, to the high school. And we hope that with preparing, we can have 1 week for doping, anti-doping in the school to give more awareness. We have a healthy lifestyle campaign, inshallah, that will come soon in the media. And the same way we do it for smoking and physical nutrition, we can do something together for anti-doping issue. Oral health, now we care about it so much. People were missing oral health. And oral health is we should move fast in this because in North Scandinavian countries, some countries achieved 0 decays. So we have a big number to go and prevent in our community in oral health. And vision is always important for us. Here we go to the numbers that we have. It was shocking numbers about obesity, and even Qataris, they like sport. Sheikh Saud know how people like Qatar like sport, and they keep following up sport. But sometimes it reflects more on the TVs than on their own behaviors. And with this always phobia that Qatar is a hot country, we cannot make sport a lot, keeping in their mind, but we hope to change it. As you see here, we can have the body mass index for the Qataris is very high. The obesity is more for 50, and obesity and overweight is around 70 in Qatar. And we are trying hopefully to lower this, and even for diabetes is 17.6, and it's so high in adult. And usually this in some regional countries here, it takes 55%, the diabetes only, of the budget of the Ministry of Health, of the cost of the doctors and the drugs for this. And we are trying to lower this. We believe maybe even we have a challenge in Qatar to know that lower vitamin D. 90% of the Qataris don't have insufficient vitamin D, and there's correlation between vitamin and diabetes that we should work on this. And here, for our goals, we have the national health strategy goals, and preventive health care is in number 3. And we are working on this to prepare our next preventive health strategy for 17-22. And we are hoping that we'll get some support from anti-doping to find a part of strategy for us, an objective for regarding doping. These are part of the preventive health projects that we are working on, and we hope to achieve them before the end of the next 2 years. These are main challenges that, if you want to know about Qatar more, these are main challenges that we have, and we are thinking. You see, improper nutrition, maybe lack of nutrition is not the problem, but malnutrition is high. People who are obese with anemia is common. Not too common, but they are. You see them all the time, and we are trying to convince them for more fruit and healthy food. Lack of exercise. People believe that if you can put your car in the front of the building, you are the best person. Not walking is prohibited. This is make you more VIP if you don't walk when you come to the work. So we are changing these habits, inshallah, and way of thinking. Communicable disease, alhamdulillah, it's low, but we are having some challenge with hepatitis C. That's not common usually in Qatar, but it's growing through some other countries that are affected. And we are hoping to work on even tobacco all the time. We are always working on tobacco, and people complaining want more achievements for tobacco. So as you know, doping, here we can decide, it is are banned when they have 2 of the 3 things are enhanced performance, pose threat of athlete, and violate the spirit of sport. For myself, I don't think that only it's who's gonna win. The main goal of other than enjoyment of sport, is building the will in every person. You know, people are lived with talents. They have talent already, but you cannot win the game if you don't work hard. Somebody will win you and take the golden medal from you if you mix the talent with the proper environment and training and the strong will to keep following up. So this is something that we always in Qatar, His Highness Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, always stress on sport and the importance, because it's keep our Qatari population with having a strong will that is needed to grow in life and develop humanity. You need to have this strong will. As you see, the challenge here when they come to public health and say, let's check everybody. It's not feasible to check everybody. You should be understanding your population and know where to target and to focus on the place. And as Dr. mentioned earlier, the clubs now, they are trying to sell. People have cash and everybody is approaching them. Take this, you'll become better and that. And we are having even not only the clear doping. There is a lot of, cheating materials in this doping, and we're having double problems, not only unfairness in sports, but ending by a big fatal diseases in a very short time. As you see here, the challenges that I want to clarify, and we hope these things that we can go sometime in a public awareness, and we find this in a proper message for people to keep following this. These are the challenges for and side effects, and maybe most of you know acne, impaired liver function, impotency, breast formation of gynecomastia, increase in estrogen, erectile dysfunction, male patterns, baldness. And this is in women, hair loss, male pattern baldness, irregularity of the menstrual cycle, development of masculine facial traits, increased coarseness of the skin. So these are things that we can find some proper awareness for them in everywhere we need. This will start in a good part. I believe here that we should work together on this to find the right budget to have some achievable outputs and incomes. And we hope that to change people's attitude again and give them the will that we have. In Qatar, we're proud, for most of you here, maybe non-Qataris, maybe you don't know, most of you, we are very proud, even when Qatar do a miracle every 10 years. And one of the miracles in 81, in football, we were just less than maybe 100,000 person, and we won Brazil in football in the World Cup of under 21 years, and we won England by a double kick, a double kick on England, and we get to the final. It was impossible. Where is this country that is winning Brazil and England? This is the country that built football, and this is the country that died for football. And how this country is winning them both. And we have this will and inspiring everything. We have something like we get the World Cup. People didn't believe it, but we do it, and for God bless and the good intentions of people, and God always gives us a gifts, and we are ready to take the gifts in proper way. So I thank you very much, and I hope public health will be a very strong player with you in anti-doping. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed, for this interesting talk and for letting us know what public health Qatar situation is, and for offering to collaborate with us, and we will do, inshallah. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody has any question for any of the distinguished speakers and guests, would like to address them, if there are any questions, or we shall proceed with the next. No specific particular questions. Then I would like to invite His Excellency Sheikh Saud